Welcome to another episode of CT Top Solutions. In this episode, I replaced the fuel line, a bunch of engine stuff, transmission cooler lines, power window motors, and we did a little bit of sandblasting. It was a great time. I hope you enjoy watching it.
Does anybody know what the best place to hook a ground is on a 383? Anybody? So I read online, a lot of people seem to like hooking the ground to this extra spot right there. The problem I have with that's hooking the ground to the cylinder head. And I really, it'll work. But I don't like having the potential for current to flow through a gasket surface, the head gasket in this case. So I wanted a place to hook to the block. Let me show you where I found. As far as I'm concerned, it is the best place to hook the ground on a 383. That's where I decided to hook the ground. See it going right to the block, right underneath the starter. I felt like that was the best place. It's out of the way of everything, and it is an actual connection to the block. I noticed some other stuff that I'm not too cool with. Take a look at our transmission cooler line. If that's not kinked, I don't know what is. Not to mention, just look at, these are, this is not the way I like to do things here at CC Top Solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and run new transmission cooler lines. I have the new radiator that came in. I'm going to go ahead and install that. Something else that could be useful for those of you that are working on your 89 Ramchargers, electrical, here is the fuse box location. I did not realize where it was. A buddy of mine from Gator's Mopar Garage was over and he found the user manual and was like, oh, the fuse block is up back here. I'm not sure how this is supposed to be mounted, but this sure doesn't seem right. I'll look at this more later. While we have the door panel off, we're going to go ahead and replace our power window switch. So the way you do this, and an easy way to do it, right? Here's the bottom mounting bolt for the switch. Here's the actual center piece for the turning gear. So if you look at this, here is your new switch. So basically it's in there like that. So what you want to do is drill holes where your screws are. So this way you can just unscrew the old one and screw the new one in. It's real simple. It's kind of a trick though, trying to align these things. If there's your center, there's your bottom hole, that one right there essentially lines up with your top hole. So you drill right there. You want to drill a pilot hole first. This way your larger bit doesn't walk. Ultimately, you're going to need a pretty good sized bit to get the old screw out and the new one in. There, you can see we drilled our two pilot holes, and you can see that right behind them, you can see these studs that are actually holding the power window motor in. The top pilot hole is off by a little bit, but it's okay. When I put the bigger one, it'll be fine. And once I have these two drilled, I'll get the third one. It'll be right in this area. Pro tip, turns out there's actually an extra bolt holding a bracket in the bottom of this. So I literally took all three of those mounting screws out and thought I could just push the power window motor out. But no, this right here goes to this bracket right here, which is bolted to the bottom of your power window motor. So unless you pull that out, you're not getting that motor out. Here are our old and new motors, and as you can see, this piece here actually sticks through, so it's a metal on metal mating surface. And what I'd like to do is just put a little grease on there to help, I guess, put a little less frictional load on the motor. So, I'm just gonna use a little grease that I would typically use to pack some wheel bearings, and I'll load it up, and it can't hurt. And then we'll pop our new motor in. The wiring, it only goes one way. I think it's interesting. Look how big the factory wires were in comparison to our aftermarket wires. Much smaller, but then again, the motor's a lot smaller too, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but if you look at our connector, you can kind of tell which wire goes to where. Here's our keyway on the connector. Here's our keyway here. So if you have your keyway on the left, keyway goes with green wire. On this one, keyway goes with red wire. So I guess green and red should interchange, but what we'll do is we'll hook it all up and we'll test it before we put the door panel back together, just to make sure we don't have polarity reversed. If polarity is reversed, when you hit the up switch, the window goes down, and when you hit the down switch, the window goes up. Here's kind of a different view. This is the inside of our door, and you can actually see our window mechanism. At some point in my life, I picked up this terrible habit
that whenever I have my door panels off, I like to oil everything up internally. I'm gonna go ahead and spray some lubricating oil up into all of our mechanisms up here, because there's actually a shaft inside there that everything rotates on, and I'm sure that a little lubrication will help. So you can see we have set our power window motor in place. You can actually see the part that I put all the grease on right here. And then you can see our bolt holes for the new motor. They're not quite lined up, but they're pretty close. As soon as we put hardware in, they'll line up real good. And then we will connect our connector and we'll go ahead and test it. Now you gotta make sure when you do the connector, you run it on this side of your window track. If it's on this side, it can get pinched in the window, and that just really wouldn't work very well. Okay, so we try to do a test of the windows. All right, this is the proper orientation. So, all right, driver's side, up and down, works well. Seems to. Passenger side, on the other hand, it's reversed. So we're gonna have to move around those wires in that connector on the passenger side. And actually, while we're here, a little grease on this part is actually a good idea as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and grease that up. What we're doing now is swapping our yellow and red wires so the window polarity is correct and the window goes the right way. If you've never worked with this type of connector before, you see that yellow plastic piece in the center? That is what actually locks these two tabs inside there. So you just get on this yellow piece with like a pin or a meter lead or something like that. You press it and it comes out towards us, out through the front of the connector. And once that's out, you can just go ahead and swap your wires. So, give you guys a bird's eye view. Our goal here is we want to have our yellow wire closest to our keyway. So we've already loosened up our internal yellow tab. So we'll just grab that with our needle nose. Here it is. Yep. And we'll set that down out of the way. Now we'll pull our two wires out. Now there's also a couple tabs inside there. You might have to get on them with a meter lead as well, just to loosen these up without running the risk of breaking anything. There we go. So you just pry right in the center, right in here. Just slide that in, and boop, see? Comes right out. And we'll do the same thing on our other side. So we're putting our door panel back on. This is going pretty smooth. Now this part here is a little bit tricky. If you didn't take it apart, which I didn't, you know, I bought it with it disassembled. Here's your actual handle. You can see that there's kind of grooves here. And the way it works is that fits right in. You see this metal piece. It fits right in and over that. And then you have to put a bolt through on this side to hold them together like that. Well, you can't really get in there with a socket or a wrench to put that bolt on. So what you do is you get a hold of this bottom lip with some needle nose pliers and you pull it out and you hand start everything. So here, I'm gonna set this up here where you guys can hopefully see what I'm doing. Ah, needle nose. And we have our nut standing by. Just get a grip right here. Pull it out. Fairly easy to pull because I greased this all up when I had the door panel off. Don't forget, you know, it's a minor step that makes a big difference in the long run. You really want to make sure this stuff stays well lubricated. And if you got the door panel off anyways, why not do it then, right? A little bit of a tighter fit on this side than it was the passenger side. Ooh, shoot, slipped. Alright, we got it again. There we go. So you just get it started by hand. That's basically started. Perfect. Now that it's started by hand, we'll go ahead and we'll get on here with a socket to tighten this up. I mean, once it's started by hand, you don't need the needle nose to hold it anymore. You can actually pry it, pull it out, open with this, and you just tighten it up. Boom, all good. There. Okay, so door panels are back together, power window motors are both replaced, and we have put upgraded speakers inside here, the front speakers. So this is progressing very nicely. Just giving you guys a recap of where we left off. So we completely rewired our whole engine bay. Here's our wire to our alternator, actually wires to our alternator, our voltage regulator, our ignition system. There's the yellow wire, that's our keyed ignition. Here's our battery. I do have it on the charger, although it doesn't need to be, it was fully charged. I put the new radiator in, put a new radiator hose. The heater core is still bypassed. I opted to worry about that at a later date. Put a new fuel tubing in from the pump up. Everything is pretty much ready to go, except we still do not have spark. I didn't film that part, but all the voltage is right, getting up to our ignition system. What I think it is inside this distributor, this is one of those eBay style. It's similar to like a Pro Comp electronic distributor, ready to run. Inside there is a circuit card. I'm 99.9% sure that that circuit card is burned out, which this all stemmed from a couple months ago. I took this for a quick spin, made it half a lap around the yard, battery fell out, and everything got damaged. I think it pulled too much current because the battery cell was damaged. It was down to 9 volts. The reason I think it pulled too much current, the stereo blew the input fuse, 10 amp fuse. The only way I could figure that happened is if there was just too little voltage and too much current in order to try and sustain it. I suspect the exact same thing happened with the circuit card inside the distributor, except for the circuit card does not have any fuse protection, and I did check the instructions. No specifics about how much current that should pull. So I don't know what I should put on it for protection, but I will find out. We have our new distributor, we're gonna take it out, swap it in, put everything back to top dead center, and we'll get this thing running today. Now, some of you will notice, look at this. Wow, nice brand new shiny alternator. That was a big mistake. This particular one did fit, but I did end up having to drill an additional mounting hole for it. Really, I probably should do 2 because this side's not mounted, but I don't know, it's not really going anywhere. The bottom ones, those lined up with holes that were in it. The top one did not. Oh no, actually this one didn't either. I had to drill a bottom hole down here as well. This was supposed to be the bolt-in radiator. It did not really bolt in. This was the second radiator that I bought. The first one, Mr. Smarty Pants right here was like, oh, I've got a big block. I need big block cooling. So I bought a mid-70s Ramcharger big block radiator. That doesn't even come close to fitting. It was too narrow to fit in this space, so it'd fall right through here. So I could have fabricated up something to make it work, but I was like, oh, you know what, let me just buy the correct one. I bought it off of eBay, and even the correct one didn't quite fit. We've taken our old distributor out, that's this one, and here's our new one, and we're just comparing them, and they really do look identical. There is one difference though. The one that came out, it might be kind of hard to see it. There it is. But there's a part number, I don't know what it is, stenciled in. Oh, actually that's engraved into it. You can't really read it, but it's W0618. You know, it looks like a nice quality unit, but I really don't know a whole lot about distributors. The Vacuum Advance does not look adjustable. Now here's our brand new one. This one has a slightly different part number. This one it's got W0721 stenciled into it. I doubt you guys could see it, but maybe, who knows. Anyways, this one, I don't see a whole lot of differences. I mean, everything seems to be oriented the same. Dimensions seem to be the same. It has a red rotor instead of the other one. Something I found though that this came with, which is kind of cool. Check this out. You can set your advance to however you want. So it looks like with the black springs, the heavy ones, it looks like you get maximum advance of around, I don't know, I might be reading this wrong. I don't know what the A, D, and F is. And it looks like there's different advanced stop bushings as well. So either way, I'm an aggressive advanced kind of person. What I'm doing now is swapping out the springs, right? So let's just use our trusty pointer, our laser pointer. These right here are your advanced springs, right? See how this is a gold one? That's a light spring. Here's a silver one, it's a medium spring. I'm switching everything over. It came factory with silver. I want it all to be light so my advance comes in faster. The bushings, the advanced bushings, those are right here underneath the spring. And gold ones are already installed, which that is basically a positive stop at 17.5 degrees. So this distributor comes with 17.5 degrees mechanical advance, when I put the gold springs in, the light ones, that will all come in by about 2400 RPM. It'll start coming in at about 1200. And then the vacuum advance, I haven't measured it, but it is adjustable. I'm guessing that's probably somewhere around 11 or 12, but we'll find out. So that would mean that at 2500 RPM, well actually let's just, yeah, 2500 RPM, I'll have full mechanical advance in. So that'll be all, what is it? With the gold bushings, that'll be 17.5 degrees mechanical. Before we pop the new distributor in, I just figured I'd give you guys a quick glance down into there. Pretty cool, right? I think it is. Therefore it is. You can actually see the cam too, at least one lobe of it. Looks pretty neat. Looks clean, very clean actually, down in there. I'm assuming this is definitely rebuilt. Oh, and there's a nice clear shot of the new fuel line I installed. We have our new distributor and plug wires in. I have not added coolant yet. I just want to crank it and see if it tries to fire, and that'll let me know that the ignition system is good to go. I think it is, but I'll let you know in about 2 seconds. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. I guess I better double check all my wiring going to the ignition. I thought it was good. So, when I wired this all back up, I wired it so that I would have 3 terminals: keyed ignition, ground, and positive, 3 terminal boards. So my keyed ignition I have coming off of this relay right here. And I never checked it before, but this just prompted me to. And guess what? I had the keyed ignition on the wrong contact. So when you would turn the key on, keyed ignition would lose power. I think that was my issue. Now I have it on the correct contact. That was amateur hour. I think I may have replaced the distributor for no reason. And now we'll try and crank this. And I think we're gonna make a little noise. Who's up for that, right? You know what? I meant to do that. I wanted to put the distributor in with a different advance spring. So there you have it. It was all on purpose. It was not bad troubleshooting. Whoa. Sounds like the ignition is good, but the timing is off. Or the firing order is off. You know, it should not have backfired for the carburetor, so. Okay, well, we're going the right way. Now let me take a look at how we have all of our timing set up. Let's get top dead center again on it, and looky what we found here. That backfiring and stuff like that, we are 180 out. The way I found that, I went ahead and I pulled the spark plug out of number 1, and I went ahead and hand cranked the engine with a 1.25" socket on the harmonic damper. That's a good workout for those of you who have never done that, since I left all the other plugs in. So I checked the firing order a bunch of times and it was still backfiring, and I was like, all right, let's check top dead center, and sure enough, it's 180 out. I have no idea why this distributor is 180 out from the other distributor, but no worries. In order to swap it, I'm just gonna pull the distributor out, rotate the rotor around so that number 1 is down here, right yonder, and we'll be good to go. Here we go again. In this case, it was no one-take piece of cake, but I think we're good to go with our timing now. Oh, pro tip, when you fill the radiator with antifreeze, check that petcock first. That's what I'm talking about, running good. I haven't even put a timing light on it and it's run that good. So, next step, I think we need to go cruise around the yard a little bit. Pretty loud. In an awesome way. We got good oil pressure, about 50 pounds. It's a little bumpy on the ride. I think I'm gonna take some stuff out. Ooh, actually it's real bumpy on the ride. I think pretty much our next step is gonna be the exhaust shop. This thing is awesome. Here, let me turn on some headlights. It's getting kind of dark out, you know, got to be able to see. Really what we should do, we should crank up some music. This thing has a great stereo, especially now that I put some of those speakers into it. Wow, you can't even hear the music. I'll crank it up a little bit. So, who loves the Ramcharger? I love the Ramcharger. Well, I can tell the timing isn't dialed in real good, but it's dialed in okay. It needs more advance, I think. And the alignment is pretty bad. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. And then the carb tune, I don't think it's great either. But doesn't matter, this thing is still awesome. Well, that's it, successful op test. Truck is running great. I'm gonna take a look at that other distributor, but I think the distributor's fine. I think that when the battery fell, it screwed up some of the wiring that was there. I went ahead and fixed it all and had a mistake in my wiring that I didn't catch, and I assumed it was a distributor. But this thing drives pretty good. Very, very bumpy. I think that's because it has all these extra shocks, which they look real cool, but I think I'm gonna actually take them out. I'm gonna go to just the standard configuration, just 4 shocks. Hey, I hope everybody enjoyed that video. I had a lot of fun making it. I hope you had just as much fun watching it. I have something very serious to discuss though. Does everybody recognize what this is? Here, extreme close-up. Can you see this? Right? That's a Colonnade era Olds 442. Belongs to a buddy of mine. Really, it's a buddy of my sister's husband. A guy named Chuck. He lives in the Detroit area. Amazing car. It was in Henning's Muscle Machine. I just met him when they were getting married, and we got discussing and immediately hit it off. The Colonnade era GMs. Because I have one. 73 Pontiac Grand Am. This car, of course, has seen better days. But it's going to be featured quite a bit in the channel in this coming year. As I go ahead and put the body back on the frame and put together all the mechanical systems, it should be a lot of fun. I'm hoping you guys all get to partake in the good times with me. We still have our 66 Mustang. That needs work. Timing chain gasket. The timing chain cover gasket that has started leaking coolant. Kind of a very boring job, but doesn't matter, I'll film it. The 93 Corvette, we're going to be doing some work on that very shortly. Suspension, some clunking, and some transmission wine. So I'm going to go ahead, it's the standard transmission, the ZF 6-speed. I'm going to go ahead and change the transmission oil on that, which, you know, I'm going to go ahead and document all this for my viewing audience. Anyhow, we'll catch up with you in a couple weeks in the next video. Take care.